Hey guys, and welcome to my Halloween stream. And Blizzard actually has some news for us because they have another PTR patch notes for Warcraft 3. Quite surprisingly, we are getting regular updates now for Warcraft 3. So let's take a look at it and see what's in store for us. PTR version 136.1 notes. And for this patch notes review, I won't just be looking at the changes, but also take a small look at the original state of things so that we can put everything in perspective with where it used to be and where it's going to be now. Alright, so I was thinking, should I call them Microsoft or Blizzard? But apparently Bethesda is still called Bethesda, even though they're under Microsoft, so we'll be referring to Blizzard as Blizzard. We have a new update, updated October 31st, and here are the changes. I'll first just read them and then we'll talk about them. Militia duration going down by 2.5 seconds. Bash bonus damage going down at the max from 100 to 55. Devotion aura getting linear by having 2 armor at level 1. Priest cast point time reduced, which means that they can actually cast spells more readily. It takes them only 0.4 seconds to wind up to cast a spell instead of 0.5. The heal cooldown reduced from 1 to 1.1. I think there's a typo here. This is, after all, an increase. Heal cooldown increase. And what I believe is meant to happen here is that priests will cast spells more readily, which is sometimes a complaint for some human players. But that the heal itself will still have the exact same cooldown in total when you count the animation and the amount of times they can cast it. 0.5 and 1 is the same as 0.4 and 1.1. So what this will change is basically that they can cast Dispel more easily when needed. Archmage strength per level increased from 1.8 to 2. Paladin movement speed increased from 290 to 300. Mana burn range reduction from 300 to 250. Mana flare max damage reduced. This is for the fairy dragon. From 100 to 80. Mark of the Talent can now be upgraded on tier 2 after getting adept training instead of needing master. The Rubian Tower frost attack reduced from 5 to 3 on heroes, remaining 5 for units. So it will only slow heroes for 3 seconds instead of for 5. Dreadlord move speed also back up to 300. Spirit Walker build time increased from 33 to 35. And if we take a quick look at Spirit Walkers right now, Walker build time at the moment in the live version is 38. So 33 was a 5-second drop. They would now be featuring a 3-second drop in the original build time. Spirit Walker adept training was 60. Then down to 45 in a suggested patch note. And the current suggested patch note will be 50. Still negative 10, but not negative 15. Same here, it was 75, now it will be negative 10, 65, instead of negative 15 to 60. So basically, it's still a 10-second buff compared to live, but not as much as a previous patch note in the PTR. Torren build time, first time we see Torren change in a while, 5 seconds down. Incinerate is still typoed, but just like the last patch note. But basically, Firelord Incinerate mana cost was always 6. Last suggested patch note was 2. Now it's 3. Firelord Lava Split. There was a typo in the last patch note. It said 15. It said 12 to 9, but it was 15 originally, which I tested. So it was 15 to 9, which is really good. It's a 60% drop. And now it's going to be 13, which is a 2-second buff compared to live, but is only 1/3 of the way as much of a buff as the previous PTR patch note buff was, which was a 6-second buff. Now it's 2-second buff. Firelord Volcano damage from 150 to 125. Crystal Ball is going to be even lower level and is now a charge drop table, sharing space with Illusions. Sentry Ward, which I think doesn't exist anymore. Or does it? Does it still exist, Sentry Ward? Or was it removed as well? Anyway, Illusions, Potion of Rejuvenation. And it's also going to have charges instead of permanent use on a 45-second cooldown. And no more having a cooldown. Tell you what I think about that very soon when we get to it. But let's finish the reading. Ring of Protection +3 gone entirely. Claws of Attack 4 is back up to +5. Used to be 6 back in the heyday of Warcraft. For the most of Warcraft's life, was dropped to 5, then to 4. They're thinking, hey, maybe it can be 5 again. Keep in mind, Circlet is back, so Claws 5 would be sharing space with Circlet, which is likely still better than Claws 5. But they're both pretty good again. Periaptor Vitality drop by 25 gold. Frost Armor slow effect cast creeps. Frost Armor slow effect cast creeps. I think when cast by creeps is reduced from 5 to 3. So there's some creeps on in the game, especially on ice maps, that cast Frost Armor and it would slow less. So those are the changes, and then they're deleting Bash Stun being 246 seconds of stun. With 1, 2, 3 for heroes. Now they're thinking it's just 2 to 2 again. Which I believe, and I checked what is live. The live bash version for Mountain King is 1 second on heroes always. So 2 to 2 and 1, 1, 1 for heroes. Which is a reversal of live. The operating PTR nodes was 2, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3. Bash chance reduced from 20, 30, 40, which is current live, to 25, 25, 25. They're deleting that, which means the chance is back up to 20, 30, 40. And this is deleted, which is back to 2 to 2. So Bash going back in its original form entirely, with just doing 25, 40, 55 damage, which is up from 25 always. So forget everything you thought you knew about Bash. Bash now simply does 15 more damage, 30 more damage at the subsequent levels. So Bash is as it was, but does a bit more damage. Stuns are similar, are the same. So how much damage is this? It used to be 25 damage. It used to be 25 damage with a 40% chance. Which is a average damage of 10. Now it's gonna be 55 damage at a 40% chance. 22. So it's a 12 DPS increase compared to before. Mountain King now has a Claws of Attack plus 12 at level 3 for free if he takes Bash. But Bash level 3 doesn't often get picked. It generally only happens... Bash stays 25. That's not what it says here. Bash chance reduced. Oh, Bash chance reduced to 25 is a reverted change. Razor WC3. When something that gets reduced from high to low is reverted, that means it's still high. So it's a Claws of Attack improvement. A Claws of Attack improvement plus 12, right? And the second level, which is 40, that's 15 extra damage times 0.3. So we have MK level 1 is the same as before. MK Bash level 1, which is actually MK level 2. It's the same as before. MK level 4, when skilling Stormbolt and Bash, has a Claws of Attack plus 4.5 on average. And Mountain King 5 takes Bolt. Mountain King 6 takes Avatar. And Mountain King 7 takes Bash. So Mountain King 7 gets a Claws of Attack plus 12. Now, you could, of course, prioritize Bash, but generally agency is, control is preferred over RNG. And Bolt has more value than just a bit of damage. So I think this is a nice buff for Bash, if it needs it. If Mountain King needs it. But either way, I don't foresee any trouble with this. And it's fun for humans. Okay, let's take it from the top, because we've gone granular on Bash, but it's mostly to understand this. Druid of the Talon cost increase has been reverted, so they're cheap again. Immolation damage reduction is reverted, and the Raise Dead cost reduced is also reverted. But Necromancer still had a couple of other buffs. So, what is the current situation? Militia used to be 45. got dropped to 42.5. Used to be 45 during most of Warcraft's life. They got dropped to 40 because for most of Warcraft's life, human Tower Rush was very strong against Orc and Night Elf. Maybe too strong, depending on the map. So it was dropped to 40 alongside with some other changes, where also every race got some nerfs, like Demon Hunter and Blade, but Towers got nerfed via Militia. Some people say, no, this is a long Militia duration is bad for Tower Rush, because you have to wait till they turn to Peasants. Yeah, but they're footmen until then. Those people are wrong. Militia able to fight before starting towers is a benefit to the human player. So now they're thinking 42.5 again, which is the second time they're considering that in the last 3 PTR patches. We've seen this. I want to go granular into each, but first I want to kind of give an impression. To me right now, first of all, I'm grateful that Warcraft is getting patches. And secondly, I'm grateful and pleased that we're getting regular patches. Even though it's just PTR and it's not live yet. That's actually probably for the best. Because new patches can have bugs. And now you can be more experimental, trying out things. And via the W3 Champions platform, as well as the actual Warcraft 3 PTR, all of this can be tried before, ruining the game or whatever competitions there might be going on now. And balance and design philosophies can vary wildly. So my main question is, what is the philosophy? What is the philosophy right now? I'm getting a little bit of a sensation with Blizzard that they are a pirate ship in the middle of the sea, or a sailing ship, and they are going with the wind. The wind of community sentiment. My sentiments, other creators' sentiments, pro sentiments. If we go from 45 seconds to 40 to 42.5 and back to 40 and 42.5, based on the most recent emphatic lobbying by a content creator, a pro gamer, a streamer, whatever, the community on the forums, if we keep blowing with the wind in the opposite directions, I wonder where that leaves us. What is our compass of design and philosophy for the balance of the game, right? Because it seems to me that this boat is on the sea blowing with the wind without knowing which land it actually wants to land on. The overarching design philosophy, the North Star, if you will, where we're going to be ending up. I believe the philosophy should be to change up the game a bit for the variety and for the the joy of the viewer and the player, to make things that weren't as viable more viable. But also, I think it would be fun to have some Dota 2 style philosophy where they actually change some things fairly rigorously. Now, I know there is a game that we love, which we're playing, Warcraft 3, and there is some risk that things get ruined forever if we make an unpopular change. Let's say Torren suddenly gets a machine gun and he can turn into Lilith. You can get the Torren operator bundle and the Lilith operator bundle, and suddenly has a machine gun, and he's doing ranged pulverizes. And then it's left like that forever. That could ruin the game, true. But hopefully, I think by now I'm getting more and more confident that we can get multiple iterations of balance for Warcraft 3, that maybe Blizzard is here to stay again for some time. I'm getting less insecure that this is the last patch ever. So I think that's great news. So I say, maybe something original can be tried for every race. Maybe we can add some races as well. Like add Naga race, add Mech race, add Demon race. There's lots of cool altered melee maps they can take inspiration from. There's all kinds of things that can be done to make the game even sicker. These changes, we can fine-tune them more and more, but they're relatively small importance to making the game fun to play for everyone. I think every of the 4 races should have something fun to play with. And if they're looking for cool ideas, I would love to get a sign from them that they're willing to, let's say, explore more adventurous avenues than just adding or removing 2 seconds. Okay, let's go on. I think this is fine. This is fine. They've made this linear, which I think is a good improvement. This is fun for humans to try. I think it's very strong, 6 armor. 246, I think it's strong, but it's fun, so let's see how it goes. This will be a quality of life improvement for many human players who complain Dispel is too slow. I've never really understood that complaint, because the main issue for Priest is that when a human puts every single Priest on autocast heal, all of them could be busy healing someone, so that when you need Dispel, they're busy casting heal. So they're essentially falling prey to a micro problem. By automating all their Priest heal, they now don't currently have cast point available to cast a Dispel. So they say Dispel has too much of a wind up, it's too buggy, it's too slow. I told him to Dispel, he didn't do it. But that's because he's midway healing. What do orcs do that want to have Purge available with a shaman? What do night elves do when they want to cyclone heroes all the time? They don't autocast everything, right? Fairy Fire, you leave it on autocast, maybe on 1 or 2 talents, the rest you manual cast it. Now Priest, of course, with healing, that's something you generally want to automate, but there's nothing stopping you from taking one Priest, removing autocast heal on it, giving it a separate control group, and putting him to constantly heal your hero if you want, or to just stand there and shoot his holy light fire, and then use him for Dispel when needed for an expected enemy debuff or buff or summon. And the second thing you can do, when the opponent is about to have things that you need to dispel, rather than removing autocast from 1 or 2 priests so that they're always available to cast Dispel, you could give a movement command to a group of priests in anticipation of an enemy buff or debuff coming out, in which case they will be moving, but they will not be stuck in a healing animation. This is what I've always done with human when I was maining human, is make sure when I anticipate the need of it, I give them a move command so they're tied up with something which isn't healing. This was a luxury complaint from bad human players, like Death Note. He's like, oh, Dispel doesn't work. No, just move your priest and it'll work. It worked for me. Still, I think the quality of life improvement is fine. It doesn't change the healing rate per second at all. So it just makes Dispel and Inner Fire more easy and quick, which is fine. Archmage is gonna get more strength gain per level. What this means is after 5 levels, he will have half a strength more. After 10 levels, after 5 levels, he has 1 strength more. And after 10 levels, or 9, because he can only level up 9 times. But anyway, let's say 10, he has 2 strength more. And the tipping point is more interesting. When does he reach the tipping point of getting 1 extra absolute number of healing? Of strength, which gives 25 health per strength. And someone in chat said, Maxecution said 25 more health at level 2. Okay. I don't know that they needed it. I think Archmage is one of the best heroes. I think it's quite strong. I don't think he needed it at all. I could say like, oh, it's a small change, whatever. I don't see the need. Archmage is one of the best starter heroes. And like, yeah, sure, he gets harassed because you have to. Because if you don't, you lose. They fast expand, or they rush you with Archmage 3 and you die. So I don't think they need it. I disagree with this. So far, everything I think is fine. This one I disagree. Paladin move speed plus 10 is fine. Paladin usually is a 2nd or 3rd, and by that time everyone has speed auras. So he's gonna feel really slow if he's 290. And he's not worth getting a boots on, so. This one, I think, could feel really bad for Night Elves. I do think Night Elf needs a nerf, but I think what they need to do is to revert the Moonwell buff that was given in 1.20. The regeneration rate of mana for Moonwells is 1.5, and I believe it used to be 1 or 1.25. Let me see if I can see. Yeah, there we go. This 2018 patch is the Matt Morris patch. Matt Morris is a very good campaign maker that worked on original Warcraft and came back for Reforged. And he is primarily a single player campaign map creator. He never dipped his toes into multiplayer. However, because Blizzard gave Classic Department a far too small team to work on Reforged due to budget cuts, firings, and too small of a team, etc., people that were never meant to do multiplayer got to do multiplayer. That's not to say that everything that they did was bad, but they lacked some experience. For some reason that I still don't understand, Moonwell mana regen was buffed significantly. And I believe it has been at the forefront of much of the Night Elves' increase in strength and why they have so much advantage over Orc for so long. Like, yes, there was the Keeper Alchemist strategy that was so hard to beat. Now, actually, we're seeing that being solved a little bit more, maybe due to some balance changes in the last year, a year or two, right? But Night Elf still has many valid builds. This one underpins everything, and I've never understood its need, because Moonwells are very, very good already. And they're still good even if it's 125. Manaburn range reduction will, of course, feel great for every non-elf player. Right? I always try to keep the Demon Hunter away by ensnaring him so he can't mana burn my heroes. Undead tries to Coil Nova the Demon Hunter before the demon comes near so that they can slow him and hurt him and make him pay for every mana burn that he does. And in Night of Mirror, they both go demons, so suit yourself. But the question is, where will this leave them? Entangle range reduction was done before because Keeper was so dominant. Next, they may reduce the range for Searing Arrows on Priestess. But I think this is the main issue, the Moonwell mana regen. They could even make it 135 if they're afraid of over-nerfing it, even though that's still more than it used to be and it was always good enough. For a Night Elf player, having such a tiny range on Manaburn will make the Demon Hunter take more damage on the inbound trajectory and the outbound trajectory. It's going to make it harder for them to reach backline heroes when they're getting body blocked. It won't feel great for them. And of course, Manaburn is a shit spell because it removes the ability to cast spells from the opponent. But so long as Warcraft 3, just like Dota, its child, and Dota 2, its grandchild, has mechanics where Manaburn is a thing, it has to remain relevant. Otherwise, why would you get it? Why would you make it? And I think Night Elf cannot rely on Keeper first or Tavern Hero first in every matchup. Demon is needed often. So I think this hurts them a lot. And of course, what I don't understand is what is the guiding principle for this? What was the need? Is it balance, stats, telemetry? People complain about mana burn, or why? I don't know how you guys feel about it, but this is a huge nerf, I think. And as a Night Elf player, I would hate this. Maybe they're thinking Immolation overtook mana burn, so maybe actually that doesn't make sense. Immolation actually overtook mana burn for some people, but I think for the most part it's a mistake. Even though Immolation is strong, mana burn is king. But some people do mana burn and Immolation. But yeah, anyway, I don't know the principle for it. Without understanding its principle, I would say no. That's all I have to say about that. Mana Flare, max damage reduction. I think this is okay. I think the anti-magic in this game is a little strong from Spellbreakers, Fairy Dragons, and Destroyers. Casters are fun units to play against, to watch, and to play with. But because casters were so good in Reign of Chaos, TFT anti-magic units were made really strong. Including Fairy Dragon, which admittedly probably are the weakest of the three. Destroyers and Spellbreakers. Spell Steal costs almost nothing if you have Brilliance. Mana Flare is strong and Destroyers get a lot from stealing buffs. I think all of it is a little too good, including the Destroyers Devour Magic. But just judging what I see and not what could be. Excuse me. Mana Flare max damage reduction. I think it's a good change. It deals a lot of damage. When it comes to Manaburn, I would rather see mana removal be minus 50. Because right now, I think Demon Hunter Liquid. I think it's 50, 100, 150. Mana burn. I think it should be like 50, 90, 135. Something like that. I think that's a better nerf. Removing 150 it's insane. Overall, the value of mana is so high. You know, Mana Burn used to be 100, 200, 300 in Reign of Chaos. The value of burning mana is so high. The value of acquiring mana is so high. This has been noted time and time again. And the greater mana pot has been nerfed. Why not nerf Mana Burn a bit as well? I think that's better than the range reduction, which will make it feel bad to use. Keep level 1 the same. 50-50, then 90, then 135, in my opinion. Mark of the Talon, I think this is a great change. Mark of the Talon is a really cool ability. You can make a Talon, get Adept, become a Crow, and then you can Fairy Fire people from the skies. But you can only do it after they become Master. And when does Night Elf ever make Master Talons? Once in a blue moon in Night Elf Mirror for an Archer Talon build. Which is really almost never again, because it's all Bear Dryad now. But once in a blue moon. And we have seen metas in Night Elf Mirror where it was Archer Talon. And for the rest, Master Talons only against Orc. Razor Moon says versus Undead. Really? Does it get used against Undead? I guess I haven't followed that matchup as much. I know that they have potential now because their piercing damage can attack destroyers now, which was never possible before. So they get used against Undead. They get used against Orc. And they generally, Fairy Fire from the sky has almost never been used. Just because it takes so long to get. It's essentially a tier 3.5 upgrade. I think this is really cool for Night Elves, that they can get Adept talents, but get the Fairy Fire from the sky without needing to go Master. That means that you could play Archer Dryad Talon build, Huntress Dryad Talon build.
Do you think the SC2 path of making a new...
I don't know. No, too much to think about for now. But I think this is a cool change. It will be fun to see some builds where you get some scouting info with that. Although this sounds strong and is strong, it's probably still not as strong as a Witch Doctor with Sentry Ward. So I don't think this is like super likely to be OP. The Rubian Tower Frost attack is always 5 seconds on everyone, and it's going to be only 3 for heroes. I think that's correct. It's way too easy to surround heroes that have long since removed its range, but are still slow. This should have been done a long time ago, in my opinion. Dreadlord move speed back up to 300. I agree, Dreadlord is not really very meta. He's slow, he suffers from slow, and he's pretty much needing to buy boots. Even as a 300 hero, he still needs boots. It's what the hero needs. The 290 just makes him feel really hard to play and to have fun with. Build Spirit Walker build time. Right now, in live, it is 38 seconds. They proposed 33, which is -5. Now it's 35 -3. I think it's a nice buff for the Spirit Walker, which doesn't get used that much anymore against human. Does get used against elf, but it's needed in that matchup. It barely gets used against undead because of the destroyer threat, making them basically not just obsolete, but even fuel to the fire of the undead strength. They get used a lot in Orc Mirror, and balance in Orc Mirror doesn't really matter, because, you know, it's a mirror. So it's not going to break that matchup. So it may make them a little bit more viable, all this, against humans, where they are very niche, and I'm one of the few orcs that I know that used them competitively against human in the last 3 years. If there are more of it, then tell me. I'd be curious about it. 60 seconds to 50, and 75 to 65. I think it's nice. Torren build time reduction by 5 seconds. One of the biggest issues by Torren is the build up in how their presence is announced and the red carpet is laid out far before they come out. If you take the slaughterhouse, by design, you have the meat wagon, which is a siege unit, a bomb, which is a tank, and a disease spreader. Then you've got a statue, which heals you. And then you've got the destroyer, which is your anti-magic, and it's an air magic damage unit. So essentially, in terms of human terms, the statue is both a barracks for the knight, a workshop for the meat wagon, it's an aviary for the griffin, destroyer, right? And it is also a sanctum for priest, statue. So when someone builds a slaughterhouse, one of 4 things can happen, right? You can't prepare for it. It's a very hidden building. Someone makes it, but they can counter one unit that's made in it with another unit that's made in it. They can counter the counter of that unit, right? I have Albom, you go Sork with Polymorph. I make statue and destroyer from same building. The problem with the Torren Totem is it's a barracks for knights, Torrens, and it is a let's say sanctum for sorceresses, walkers. The comparison kind of stops there, but basically walkers cannot attack destroyers, Torrens cannot attack destroyers. Both of them get owned by destroyers, or griffins for that matter, right? When you see the Torren, you know what's going to come out. You know what you're going to get. It will be countered by the griffins, or worms, or destroyers, or wind riders for that matter, right? So the Torren is like a big announcement. So the biggest issue with the Torren Totem being a big announcement for what's going to happen and for how it can be countered is the very long build up and build time. So I do believe that all these build time reductions can make the whole tech more valuable. You could also have a totem time reduction, but I think this helps a lot. And it is probably the most elegant buff to Torrens, which is nearly a non-factor unit in competitive play. It's probably the most elegant buff without making them more effective per population point. They will still be countered by griffins, and in fact, I will make more walkers and Torrens to free die to griffins more quickly. But maybe you can hit some timings, or you can back them up with anti-air units, of course. What if instead of build time Torrens would get some kind of movement speed? Would that make them more viable? I don't think movement speed is their issue. Like I said, for Torrens it's very binary. Do you get countered by enemy heavy air, yes or no? So it's all about getting them into the fight as quickly as possible. Move speed does that, yes, but so does build time reduction. And the thing you want to be careful of is it doesn't become like an oppressive unit. Torrents don't need to be countered by heavy magic air. They can also just straight up lose to bears. I can try to make Torren Walker against Bear Dryad. It's not going to work. You know, every race is different, and that's a good thing. In theory, Torrents should beat all the other heavy melee because of Pulverize. But then there's, of course, also micro, and there's other conditions, like what kind of support units do they have. I think Torrents need more support. Shaman, Doctor, and Walker are all great support for the Torren, but that's even more preparation to be countered by heavy air, none of which those 4 units can do. So Torren is a bit more of a... it's a bit more of a sucker punch unit. It's not something you can really go for. It's a sucker punch. I've got an army of Headhunter, Raider, and Kodo. Maybe I've got 2 walkers. And then I'm like, hey, let's slip in a Torren. Bam! Let's slip in 2 Torrens. Snap! Right? And I think build time helps with that. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I think it's a nice buff. Firelord, Incinerate, mana cost. I think this is cool. Let's make the Firelord broken for a while. In fact, I think 12 or 10 for splits is fine too. People are good enough to stop that thing for the most part. This is still very strong Incinerate. No longer 2 mana, but 3. 2 mana was like his mana doesn't even go down because of mana regen. It's like 2. So now it actually has a cast. I think that's good. This is nice. I think it's quite strong. I'd love to try more Fire Lord. Volcano damage, just make it 500. Like, nobody gets that thing. 500 damage. You cast Volcano, you win the game. No, I'm kidding. But it went from 100 to 150. 125. Honestly, just keep it at 150. Like, let's see it rock your world for a bit. No, it's going to be funny. But this is probably reasonable. This is a very unexpected change for me. Perhaps the most original change that, together with the Nerubian change and the Priest change, these are changes I really didn't expect from Blizzard. This because I don't think anyone gave them the idea. So there is, you know, a lot of original thinking going on behind the scenes, not just listening to the community. Oh, it is your idea, Neo? Okay, I see. So it did come from somewhere, okay. But it's the first time I'm reading it, and here's why I like it. Right now, if you find a permanent crystal ball at any level, you use it once instantly without a thought for if it's a good time to use, because you want to start the cooldown running, right? And then you either hold on to the ball and use it several times more in order to reveal on cooldown as it becomes available. And essentially every second that you wait and you're not using it, you're wasting it because you could be casting it more. But you're never really giving as much consideration to the timing of it as to the fact that you should be using it because it's, you know, a macro mechanic to leverage. Of course, you could delay the cooldown deliberately in order to wait for a more impactful time. That would be a mind over matter kind of decision you would have to make as a player. But there's something to be said for using it a lot and immediately. That's not as interesting of a decision for a player to make. The only decision they make is where to use it or if to artificially delay it in order to use less of them but at more important times. Dropping it down removes the issue where Crystal Ball is just an inherently extremely different item from all the stat booster items like Circlet, Gloves, Talisman, etc. They're all stat booster items. And Ball was always kind of the odd one, the oddball, if you will. It was dropped all the way from level 5 to 4 to 3 to... And where does it stop? Like, it never gives you stats for the fight. So to equate it to consumables, which are just like it, illusions are information gathering devices, as well as some other things. Sentry wards were information gathering devices, right? For Crystal Ball to be equated to that feels right to me. And by making it a consumable, you are incentivized to wait for the right time. You're incentivized to come up with a strategy where you think this time slot is most important for me to check what's going on in that location. Could be his main, could be his natural, could be around yourself to see if you're getting creep jacked. You make that decision twice. I think 3 could be possible too. I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like 3 consumable 8-second reveals is weaker than the old double consumable 5-minute Sentry Ward. Because that's 10 minutes of reveal, Sentry Ward, and this is 24 seconds of reveal if you have 3 charges. 2 charges is 16 seconds of reveal. Now the advantage is it's global, it's a magic hand that suddenly checks. Sentry, you actually need to go there and plant it. But I think Sentry, thanks for the raid, Banana. Hope you had a good stream. I think Sentry is such a good item, and I think it was removed from the drop table, right? Crystal Ball doesn't even feel like it is equal to that, even if you have 2 charges. I think 3 would be fine. 3 charges. And then maybe put like a 15-second delay in using it, or maybe no delay, I don't know. I think 3 is fine. But I don't mind 2 either. I just think it's not strong enough. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Ring of Protection plus 3 removed. That's fine. Claws back to 5. I'm happy about that. 5 is more exciting than 4. You know, I like RNG in Warcraft 3. I like bad RNG and bad luck, and I like good luck. I think bad and good luck is funny. If someone gets bad luck, you can be like, ha! And if you get good luck, you're like, yes! Once the Claws of Attack is plus 2 and the Ring of Protection is plus 1, it doesn't excite. It doesn't spark joy. So I think 5 is nice. Better than 4, but not as good as 6. Or maybe even 7. Right? Wouldn't that be cute? Yes, it would be cute. Good boy. Parry up to Fatality. 300 is fine. Maybe you buy it more, maybe you sell it less. It's kind of an undesired item usually because it doesn't add damage. Frost Armor Slow Effect. Down. I think this is a good change as well. I think this is a good reversal. Good reversal. Yeah. Keep the chance high. I think it's fine. This is fine. Worried about immolation damage being too high. So this was not a big reduction. Why did they revert this? +5, +6. Plus 6.5. Plus... What is 17? Wait. Can they just make it linear already? 5? 11? 17. Just make it linear, no? But maybe there's a reason for it. Anyway, I don't care about this. And Race Dead, they were worried that skeletons will become too good. I'm not worried about that. I don't think they are. But... yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're like a non-factor in pro play right now. But they could become a factor with the other small buffs they got. What were the other small buffs again? I'm trying to think. They did a skeletal mastery buff, a cost reduction. And then they did... yeah, we can't see the old... They did skeletal mastery cost reduction, cripple cheaper, and raise dead cheaper. Okay, yeah. I mean, sure. I don't think it's a big deal. I think whether people will mass necros and mass skellies will probably not be down to this. It will be down to whether they want to mass necros, which is pretty all in. And generally, I feel like you have enough skeletons, and it's about whether your opponent has enough dispel or not. I think it's fine. Corpses are one of the main resources that this build is looking for, not mana. But I don't think it hurts if it's 60 mana either, to be honest. I would vouch for 60. We can see some Necros in 4-on-4, 2-on-2, 1-on-1. I think 60 is fine. That would be my current recommendation, 60 mana. Okay, that's the patch note. Pretty exciting. We still have a couple of changes that I haven't tried as well from the previous PTR, which is the Bladestorm buff, and of course, playing Undead, making Cryptlord, maxing Spiked Carapace, getting Banshees, stealing Enemy Wisp, making an Altar, making a Tree of Life, upgrading it to Tree of Ages, making a Keeper, then getting Thorns, getting Damage Return Thorns level 3, having level 3 Carapace and Thorns for a total of 90% melee damage return, only to see that my opponent is massing ranged units. Still want to try that? Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.